And so, Brenden, the topic you wanted to get into today, the article you sent me, and I'm sure many people have taken a look at it, is the one written by Katie Wu in the New York Times and the Athletic from yesterday, talking about the rebuild, titled "What Have the Cardinals Really Answered During a Transition Season Full of Questions," and kind of going over everything that everything that has happened here over the last 155 games or so this year, knowing that it was a runway season, knowing that the kids were going to get their at bats. And I do like that she started off the article promoting, the successes of Alec Burleson. Last night, I was listening to a portion of the game on KMOX, driving around, and heard them. I don't know if it was in reference to this article, if it was just a separate conversation with Alec Burleson, but I absolutely love the confidence that Alec Burleson has right now going into it, because I said, and I've said many times this whole season, I thought, even though he earned a starting spot on opening day and has played most of the season, I thought he had a raw deal coming in to spring training last year. I thought he did enough last year to where the organization should have said, hey, you're starting every day. Not sure if it's DH, first base, left field, right field, not sure where it's going to be. You are getting that lineup because you earned your spot. And it felt like they made him re-earn it again at spring training, where others, I think, were kind of, hey, you got the runway, you're on it. And Alec Burleson, whether he just is and I honestly have had, I can't recall any conversations I've had with Alec Burleson. Maybe you have. But I don't know if he's a guy that plays with a chip on his shoulder or a guy that just kind of goes out there and does his job. But I am so happy to see the success that he's had this year.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Like, part of the reason that I wonder if it's been sort of a slow build to his consistent opportunity is this long-term idea from the organization that they believed in what Burleson is, and they don't have to find out more about him. They know that when his time comes around, it's just going to be there. And like, you think about what they were trying to accomplish at the beginning of this year with guys like Walker and Gorman, and trying to figure out certain guys and making sure, like, all right, let's give the playing time to Nootbaar to see if he can make it through a season healthy. And then, like, you find out that, okay, he's still dealing with some durability concerns. And Burley just wasn't one of those guys. And so, almost to a fault, he was this known commodity where it was like, for a moment there, you couldn't really give him the playing time because you were trying to find out about all these other dudes. Once you got to a point in the season, though, it was never going to be that way the whole year. Once you got to a point in the season and Burley got his opportunity to shine, it kind of the smarter opportunities prevail, where it's like, okay, he's just going to play. And he is. Steve's right. I think he does get better every year. He's improved defensively, where the Cardinals a year ago would have said, this guy's a butcher in the field, we can't put him in the outfield. And I don't really think they internally feel that way anymore about him, given the work that he's put in, which is great, because you have still those log jams of, the positional aspects where you want to find a spot to keep him and put him. But Burleson's been, kind of flexible enough and versatile enough that they've been able to put him in the corners. They can put him at first base, and obviously you could DH him if you had to. But I think he's kind of come up the pecking order in that regard as well, where, going into next year, he's one of the mainstays, and batting average is strong. OPS is above 800. There's only a couple of guys that can claim that. He's had a really, really good year, and it does stand out in a positive way.
And I'll say that for Samuel, when he asked there, how do you win a lineup spot without a position? I am of the belief that if you bring your bat, you bring your bat to the ballpark, I'll find somewhere to put you in that lineup or in that field, and I don't care. At the end of the day, if you hit the way Alec Burleson hits, there's not going to be a whole lot of games he's going to cost you defensively in the field. I can remember one that I was at. I can't remember if they lost the game, but he was in right field, took a terrible route at a ball, and it's one of those things that you kind of look at it and you go, okay, hey, that might happen once every other week, but he's going to go up there and hit, and you hope that it makes up for it by the end of the year with that. I think that's, it's one of those where you kind of look at the metrics of the whole thing, and I think Alec Burleson is above that right now. And I disagree with Jen's saying this with Burleson. Honestly, as of right now, left field. If you would, like what you just said, Walker, if you're giving Walker this opportunity to hit baseballs hard and see what happens with that, I mean, Walker's your right fielder, Burleson's your left fielder, and you kind of move on from other aspects of it, whether it's Newbar or Donovan that I know we're going to get into or whatever.
Yeah, so like this will be interesting to see the way the offseason unfolds. Burley's got an everyday spot. Samuel makes the point, like if you have a lesser fielder, would you like to anchor that guy to one spot to give that player a chance to improve? I could see the argument behind that, but I also the Walker thing is interesting because while I wouldn't trade him, I don't know that I bestow a spot to him. But if they're really trading away anybody that's arbitration eligible, like if Nootbaar's traded and Donovan is traded, as Katie Wu writes in her article for The Athletic, basically it seems as though now the premise of this post and the story is that the Cardinals are maybe going to be more ready to embrace the R word rebuild rather than avoid it like the plague, like they did all year with Mozeliak and using every word but rebuild. They're going to be more willing to use it. And if that's what you're doing, and that means like it'll be a couple of years before you really are ready to reinvest, that does put me on notice when it comes to a guy like Brendan Donovan, feeling like, okay, if they're rebuilding and they're saying 2 to 3 years, he's a free agent after 2 more years. If his value is high coming off of an all-star season, this new guy, Chaim Bloom, he might do it. And I'm against that, but I understand that like I might be swimming upstream on this thing because if the Cardinals are rebuilding, that's what that looks like. It looks like trading away the guys with 1 or 2 years of team control while they still have some value, and maybe not even waiting till the trade deadline to do it. Like that's another option, but then you risk values changing, going down, whatever the case may be. It really feels like they're just trying to restock, and that's going to mean potentially some lean times, but that could also lead to, Joe, just throwing Jordan Walker out there in right field. If to your point, Nootbaar's gone, you can play a Burleson in left field, then maybe that we're almost regardless of what Walker produces. And like, that's not going to be conducive to wins if Walker plays again next year, like he did this year. But if that's just where the Cardinals are as an organization, then, maybe that's what we end up seeing. I don't know about this comment from Bill. It says you put Walker out there, then you can't have Scott playing center. And you'll definitely need a left fielder that can hit. I don't agree. I think if you're trying to win the World Series next year, that's true, but I don't think that's what they're trying to do. I think Scott is going to be the reason almost, Joe, that you can put 2 corner outfielders that don't maybe have the range necessarily defensively. It's going to be up to Vic to just cover it all. That could be your outfield. I don't know.
I can also see the Cardinals going into next spring training, making Victor Scott and Michael Ciani battle it out again and earn that center field spot again.
I don't think that's a thing. Maybe I'm wrong. We
didn't really. Victor Scott. I know Victor Scott earned it this year after kind of disappearing last year off the face of the earth. And Victor Scott showed up and earned the starting spot this year and held on to it all year. I wonder if there's anything. I mean, Michael Ciani didn't do enough to impress the organization to move him up to the majors at any point this year. I do wonder if, going into it, though, there could be things that Ciani can do to impress the team again in spring training.